What's going on, people? Decided to do a little video on changing the coolant on a C15 cat. First thing first, it might sound stupid changing the coolant. It's a very easy thing. You drain the coolant from radiator in the block and you refill it and go on. Yes, it is on the older engines. I can do that, but I want to be a little bit more technical. Maybe this information will give somebody better understanding what the coolant does and why do we even have a coolant in a diesel engine or gas engine or any kind of engine. So this is the coolant. This is clean coolant. This is old coolant. I got only one bucket left, the rest of I dumped. And I use Alliance truck parts, extended life coolant, which is red or pink, whatever you want. It's red, so it's extended life. It's similar as a cat coolant. That's what I got. I got a Caterpillar. Reason I don't use green coolant, green coolant is good for the aluminum. Seems like to me it doesn't do corrosion and stuff like that. Green coolant in the steel blocks, which is cats and all the semi engines, they are steel block, steel head. Majority components are metal, not aluminum, not metal, but black iron. So I use red coolant on it. So first thing first, on the C15, right in the elbow right there, that goes in the radiator, there's a petcock. I drain the coolant out of there. And on the oil cooler right here, as you guys can see, I will grab a flashlight real quick. That bolt right there, there's one on the top, one on the bottom. I drain the coolant out of there too. So usually when I change the coolant on any kind of engine, I try to drain in two spots. Reason I changed the coolant, I don't know how good this coolant is. I did test it. It passed the freeze point. It did good on the electrolysis. It passed good everything. So I bought this engine. I changed all the fluids but the coolant. So this hose right here on the cat, they're known for going bad. So I bought one of those new, and this is my old one. And I think I catched it in the right time, as you can see. Let the camera catch this thing. It's kind of started melting because it's so close to the exhaust and stuff like that. So it's silicone, they're pretty rugged. It was rubbing up here a little bit. So I put a new part and I keep this one as a spare, just in case if I'm gonna need it, small things like that. I keep it in the truck just if I do break one, I have the old one I can put it on. And I replace this guy too. This one doesn't go as bad as often, but they're not that expensive, so I changed it. All my other hoses, this hose is good, and I will explain to why it's a crash like this. So that's the reason I drain the coolant. Number two, like I said, the first one, I don't know how good this coolant is, how clean, and this specific engine does not have coolant filter on it. So I figure I'm gonna drain it. It's a cheap maintenance. It's gonna cost me probably, I don't know, a little over $100, and I will drain it, put fresh stuff in it, and I ain't gotta worry about it. I did check all these hoses. They're all in good shape. Went all the way back. There's some goes to for the oil cooler for the transmission. They're all good. I know they're good because I just did the transmission. And I got this snap-on tool. The tool's on the truck. The box is empty. And it's Red Kit Plus or whatever it is. So what this thing does, it refills the coolant in your engine block. And I'll be more in details, I will show. So basically, this is reservoir tank on a 379 Peterbilt. This is reservoir tank. That's where the coolant actually gets filled. There's a radiator cap, and this one is 16 psi. So these engines like to run hot. They do run. The thermostats on the C15 Cat twin turbo, I don't know what single to, but they 208 degrees. That's when they open up. And reason they run in such big, not a 12 or 15, that they run on the 16. 16 PSI radiator cap. Hopefully I will say this right. Reason we're pressurizing coolant system to raise the boiling point. Did I say that right? I think I did. Reason we pressurize the coolant system to raise the boiling point of the coolant. When you have pressure, like let's say, if you put on the stove pot of water and you leave the lid open, it will start boiling in a lot lower temperature. Then you put a lid on it and hold it tight. You don't allow it to boil it. So that's the tool I was talking about. You basically put it on the trough and it runs off an air hose, and you have this nipple. So you basically hold it. It's already right at almost a 25 PSI. It's not PSI, it's negative pressure, so it's a negative 25 PSI. You hold it and it actually will draw this line. It's got to be between 20 and 25. So the lower you go, the better you are. So I did that for a while now. We can unhook this guy. So this can be free to go. I did check I did vacuum in it, in a block, in the radiator. That's why I said that's why this line is crushed, because there's not supposed to be that much air in it. Same as this line crushed. They will come back out when you're gonna refill it. So you got this line right here, goes to that tool. And what you basically do, you put the coolant on a tire or whatever, you stick the line in the bucket, you open the valve on the top right there, and you end up filling the coolant system with the vacuum. So kind of the vacuum goes away and the coolant comes in. Reason you do that, and reason that tool actually was created for, specifically for the EGR engine, especially the EGR on the early models, they were going on the top. So anytime you blew a hose or something like that, the guys would just dump the coolant in there, and there's, you know, still air gets left over. If you have an air left in the coolant system, it's really bad deal, because that is a hot spot. There's nothing to cool, so the air gets heat up faster than it. There's no exchange between the metal and the water, which is coolant. And the reason that tool got designed. So when you use the vacuum tool, you vacuum it out of air, that creates the vacuum in the system, and then you fill it with the coolant. There's chances for being an air pocket someplace, slim to none. They basically will not exist, because whatever the vacuum is, the water is, something has to replace it with it. That's why I prefer to use this tool on all the engines, specifically now. I do not have any EGR on the C15 cat. They are A-cert, which is similar to the EGR. They don't have EGR cooler or nothing like that. It's different, different design of it. But that tool, I think they only cost, I think it's 200 bucks. And if you do maintenance on your own truck, I would recommend to buy it. It comes in a small case like this, a couple different fittings for the smaller radiators. And this tool is universal, comes with all the instructions. The previous job where I work, we had one, but there would be a box like this. It was made by Cornwell, and it had different attachments for the different radiators. This one's a lot better. The cone-shaped rubber goes in basically any kind of radiator. You don't have to have a special adapter. So there's instructions, you know, from 1 to 13, install the caps, whatever. And I used this tool multiple times, never had a problem. Never had hot spots in it. Did a couple EGR engines like that. Did replace a couple EGR coolers on the Cummins. And I used that tool. The guys never came back, and works every freaking time. So, and another positive thing about this tool, when you fill the coolant in, it will stop when the vacuum goes away. You be filled, I mean, to the max. Then you put your cap on it and you're done. You don't have to later on go up there and check how much coolant you got in case you have to add something. Never have to do that. Just fill it up. When it's done sucking out of the bucket, you're done. Just let it be. So that's a small video about the cooling refilling system. Thanks for watching.